You're listening to Into the Disappearing, the podcast where we explore the eerie, the unexplained, and the chilling mysteries that lurk just beyond the veil of everyday life. I'm Marin Blake. Tonight we take you to the remote mountains of West Virginia, where the thick forests, towering pines, and isolated campsites hold more than just the usual wildlife. In the deep wilderness, something is said to move in the shadows. Tonight we'll hear from two witnesses, both of whom had their own terrifying experiences during separate camping trips. Each recounts what they saw, something that defies explanation and lingers in their memories. This is episode 24, The Shadows in the Mountains. The Appalachian Mountains in West Virginia have long been a popular destination for outdoor enthusiasts. The towering trees, rolling hills, and quiet streams make it a perfect place for camping, hiking, and escaping the noise of the world. But there are parts of these mountains where the veil between the living and the unknown seems particularly thin. The kind of places that people speak of in hushed tones, places where stories are passed down but rarely spoken aloud. Tonight we hear the chilling accounts of two people who, each in their own way, have ventured into these mountains and witnessed something that still haunts them. Our first witness, Sarah Williams, is a seasoned camper who has spent countless nights under the stars in the West Virginia mountains. But it wasn't until a summer trip in 2019 that Sarah had an experience she could not explain. Sarah was camping with a small group near the base of the mountain, far off the beaten path. The campsite was nestled deep in the forest, isolated and tranquil, just the kind of spot that makes you feel at peace with nature. That is, until the evening of the second night. According to Sarah, they were sitting around the campfire when the atmosphere shifted. The night air grew cold, despite the warmth of the fire, and the usual sounds of the forest fell silent. No crickets, no owls. Just an unnatural quiet.
At first, I didn't think much of it. It's a remote spot, so sometimes you get that quiet, that stillness. But then I heard it. It was soft at first, like a crackling, almost like footsteps through dry leaves. I figured it was an animal, maybe a deer or something, but then it got louder, closer. It wasn't just one set of steps, but two, moving in sync. I remember looking around, but I couldn't see anything. I was starting to feel uneasy. That's when the others heard it too.
As Sarah and her group sat frozen, the footsteps continued, drawing nearer with each passing moment. It wasn't until the sound circled the camp that they realized something was wrong. The steps didn't make sense. They weren't following the typical paths animals would take. They moved in an almost deliberate, unnatural pattern.
We were all sitting there trying to figure out what we were hearing. Then it stopped. For a few seconds, everything was dead silent. Then, through the trees, we saw it. A figure, tall enough to be wrong. It was standing there, just behind the trees, barely visible but there, watching us. And then, in an instant, it was gone. No sound, no movement. Just vanished into the trees.
Sarah and her group were too terrified to even speak. The hairs on the back of their necks stood up. They could hear each other's breathing, but nothing else. It felt as if the very air around them was charged with tension, holding its breath. The sound of the wind rustling the leaves grew louder, but it couldn't mask the sense of being watched. The figure they saw was tall, unnaturally tall. It stood behind the trees just far enough that they couldn't make out details, but they knew it wasn't a human. Its form was too elongated, too still. No natural creature in these woods would have moved so silently, nor would they have been so deliberate in their approach. It wasn't a shadow. They could see the silhouette clearly, framed by the moonlight.
I can't even explain it. It didn't move like a person. It was like it was hovering between the trees. Its outline was just wrong. Its head was too large, and its arms hung too long, almost like it didn't belong in our world. When we tried to move or make noise, we couldn't. It felt like something was holding us in place.
The group didn't sleep that night. They sat by the fire, watching the shadows, listening to the strange, windless silence that hung around them. The next morning, they packed up quickly and left the site without saying a word about it to anyone. But when Sarah returned home and began researching online, she found something disturbing. Others had reported similar figures in these very mountains. Tall, shadowy shapes that appeared at the edge of vision, always watching, never approaching. Now let's turn to our second witness, Jack Thompson. Jack's encounter came a year later in 2020 during a solo hiking trip in the same region of the Appalachian Mountains. Unlike Sarah, Jack wasn't new to these mountains, but what he witnessed that night was unlike anything he had experienced before. Jack had been hiking all day, taking in the views and the solitude that only the mountains could offer. As dusk fell, he found a secluded spot near a mountain stream and decided to camp for the night. The area was isolated, with only a small fire pit and a few scattered rocks around. The night felt serene, almost too calm. As Jack set up his tent and started a fire, he began to feel a strange unease. Something he couldn't explain. He brushed it off at first, telling himself it was just the isolation getting to him. But when the darkness fell and the sounds of the forest began to fade, that unease grew stronger.
It was around 11 p.m., and I was just finishing up my dinner when I noticed something strange in the distance. There was this light, just a faint glow, moving through the trees. At first, I thought it was someone else's campfire, but it was moving too quickly. It wasn't a steady light like a campfire. It flickered, like it was bouncing from tree to tree. I thought maybe I was imagining it, but then I saw it again. It was too real to ignore.
Jack thought it was just another camper, perhaps someone else lost in the woods. But the glow wasn't right. It was erratic, moving in odd patterns as though it was being carried by something or someone. But it never came any closer to Jack's camp. It flickered and danced, bouncing between the trees like a will-o'-the-wisp, teasing him just beyond his reach. He moved closer to investigate, hoping to find the source. But as he approached the edge of his camp, the light seemed to pull back, vanishing just as quickly as it had appeared. Jack froze, heart pounding, unsure of what to do. Then came the movement.
I don't know how to explain it, but I saw something between the trees. At first, I thought it was just a shadow, one of those illusions you get when the firelight flickers. But then it moved, fast, too fast. I couldn't see it clearly, but I saw the shape of something tall, way too tall to be human. Its outline was all wrong, stretched out like it was caught between the shadows. And it wasn't just one figure. I saw two of them, moving in sync, almost like they were following the light.
Jack's heart raced as the figures disappeared into the shadows. He tried to call out, but his voice seemed to be swallowed by the night. The air was thick, oppressive, as if something was pushing against him, urging him to stay silent. The figures never approached. They stayed in the shadows, always just out of reach. And then, the light flickered once more, drawing the figures away as though they were summoned by it. Jack didn't sleep that night. He sat by the fire, watching the trees and listening to the wind, his mind racing with questions. What had he seen? Who or what had been watching him from the dark corners of the forest? The next morning, Jack left the mountains early. He told no one what he had seen. But when he returned home, he began speaking with locals about the area. They told him stories about strange lights and tall, shadowy figures that appeared to those brave enough to camp in the deeper parts of the Appalachian wilderness. Both Sarah and Jack encountered something that night. Something that seems to exist just outside the realm of understanding, caught between our world and the unknown. The Appalachian Mountains are rich with history, myth, and mystery. And the shadows that linger there seem to be part of the land itself. If you've experienced anything like Sarah or Jack, if you've seen shadows moving through the trees or witnessed strange lights flickering in the distance, we want to hear from you. Contact the show and share your story. Next week, we'll journey to the eerie marshlands of Louisiana, where a forgotten ghost town whispers the secrets of the past. Until then, I'm Marin Blake. Stay aware, stay out of the shadows. And if you see figures watching from the trees, don't blink.
When the night gets bright and the stars align, we stir up dreams in cosmic time. A little stardust, a little tune, you're mixing it with the moon.